Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the advanced briefing on building the next global industries with Main Sequence Ventures. Our conversation chair this morning is Yasmin Allen.
As Maria just said, my name is Yasmin Allen. I'm the chairman of Advance.org, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to Advance's Global Digital Roundtable with our great friends from Main Sequence Ventures, Bill Bartee, Martin Dersma, Phil Moyle, Mike Nichols and Mike Zimmerman, and their innovative portfolio companies who we'll meet later. I extend a warm welcome to colleagues from Australia, Cyprus, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, the United States and the UAE this morning. This is a fabulous turnout. I'd also like to acknowledge and welcome with us today the Honourable Arthur Sinodinos, AO, Australia's Ambassador to the United States. Arthur will chat with us a bit later. Also welcoming Carla Zampatti, esteemed Advance Awards judge. The Honourable Malcolm Turnbull, Australia's 29th Prime Minister and former Advance patron. So good to see you back again, Malcolm. The Honourable Gabriel Upton MP, Parliamentary Secretary to the New South Wales Treasurer. Dig Howard, CEO of Cochlear. Robin Denham, Chairman of Tesla. David Thodey, Chairman of CSIRO. Alison Deans, Main Sequence Venture Board Director. Carol Swartz, Advance Ambassador and RBA Board Member. Jack Cowan, Chair of Competitive Foods, and all our honourable guests and friends. A warm, warm welcome. I'd also like to pay my respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island elders past, present and future. I'm looking forward to a great discussion today. Even before COVID-19, Australia's rate of business formation had slowed. Every time I see Phil Lowe, he was berating business for low wages growth and productivity. The only way we can drive growth is through opening up new sectors based on Australia's strengths, alongside our resource and finance sectors. One of our future planks will be the success of our R&D commercialisation, valuing our commercial IP and creating new businesses for global markets. CSIRO is one of Australia's, and mine, most beloved institutions. Main Sequence Ventures is the VC arm of CSIRO, set up to catalyse Australia's investment into science and technology-based startups to improve the translation of research and stimulate innovation. The Australian government was Main Sequence Ventures' founding $100 million investor, and this has since been leveraged by a further $140 million from the private sector. Global engagement is one of CSIRO's 6 strategic pillars, and this is where Advance comes in. Our diaspora is a two-way brains trust. Global Australians have the skills, expertise, networks and local knowledge required to act as a bridge to international markets, particularly when travel is limited. At last month's Advance Roundtable with Lord Jerry Grimstone, the UK Minister for Trade, he said, "It is not an easy world to get things done. Talent and skills is an important part of our future." We estimate that since the outbreak of COVID, more than 300,000 Australian expats have returned home, some temporarily, some permanently. They will contribute to the talent and skills needed to drive our economy forward, an asset that Advance connects with through our programs, such as today's roundtable and our annual International Australian of the Year Awards being held in October this year. Advance is Australia's only diaspora organisation. We celebrate our overseas Australians and we provide the opportunity for them to share their knowledge and IP back home for the benefit of all Australians. COVID-19 has slingshotted us into a future world, one in which digital has become central to every interaction, forcing both organisations and individuals further up the adoption curve. Shortly, I'll introduce Bill Bartee from Main Sequence Ventures. But first, I'll just briefly outline how today will work. We're trialling something a little different, so please bear with us. Following the overview by Bill, you'll be invited to enter one of the 5 Zoom rooms for a facilitated Q&A with a Main Sequence Venture partner, a 30-minute deep dive into the sector of your choice that you allocated when you registered. We will then rejoin the main group for an update before being invited into your second Zoom room, and then we'll reconvene for final observations from Bill and closing remarks from Mr. Ambassador from Washington. Presentations by each of the main sequence venture partners will be shared as part of our wrap-up package, so you won't miss out on any of the other discussions going on. So let me introduce Bill and we'll get started. Bill Bartee is managing partner at Main Sequence Ventures. Before joining Main Sequence, he co-founded Blackbird Ventures, whose portfolio companies include Canva, Culture Amp, Safety Culture, Zoox, and Autopilot. Bill is an active mentor and participant in StartMate and is well known in the entrepreneurial community. Bill has sourced and led early stage investments in Seek, Altium, LookSmart, and OneBox, amongst others. He holds a Bachelor of Science and Juris Doctorate, and he currently sits on the boards of Main Sequence Ventures companies Practera, Capiche, Silight, Prospection, and Trellis Data, and he's an observer on the board of Baraja. We are really excited to hear today from Main Sequence Ventures. So please welcome Bill and thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Yasmin. And I'd like to say thanks to everybody and welcome for the opportunity to speak to you. We know that a lot of you are dialing in from various parts of the globe, and it's kind of odd hours. So thanks for putting up with this, and hopefully we'll have some interesting ideas to share with you. To thank three people specifically. First of all, thanks, Maria of Advance. I don't know too many people or organizations that can pull together such a great group of people so quickly, so many thanks. You've done a spectacular job. Thanks, Yasmin, for the introduction. I'd also like to thank Ken Allen, because I think if history is correct, Ken actually started the Advance Garden, and hopefully we can get 1,000 flowers to bloom from this. So thanks, Ken. And I'd also like to thank the entire Main Sequence team and CSIRO, with a special call out to Gabrielle Munzer, our senior investment star, who's worked tirelessly with Maria to sort of put this all together. So thanks, Gabs. Really appreciate it. First, I'd like to, I'm just going to spend a few minutes and then we'll go into our rooms, as Yasmin said. What I'd like to do is give you a brief snapshot of who Main Sequence is and what we stand for. So Main Sequence is an early stage venture fund, and we back founders who are building these disruptive companies that are based on science and hard engineering solutions. We like to back the rebels, the scientists who think differently, because it's proven time and time again that those who do think different drive the biggest change. We often back things that look impossible or improbable at first, but grow into some of the largest business worldwide. Another way to say that is we invest in the largest companies in the world that happen to be small now. We're not short-termists, we're not incrementalists. Indeed, we look for the long-term quantum leaps. Our belief is that if you can solve a very hard problem in a very large market with a product that's difficult to replicate, that this is a massive opportunity. And also, as said a few moments ago, we are part of CSIRO, and we have access to their 3,500 scientists, which at times can be a major advantage for us. Now, our belief, firm belief now, is we're beginning to see the beginnings of the major global scale companies that are being built in our own backyard. And we're going to talk about some of those today. But we're looking specifically in areas like food and food production in order to feed the world's 10 billion people that'll be here by 2050. We're also looking at a lot of innovation and disruption in space and space technology, including satellites and rockets. There is an effort to build the next generation Wi-Fi and semiconductors here in Australia, which you'll hear about. And there's also new forms of industrial technology that are being powered by AI systems, which are going to drive the next industrial giants. And what I'm going to talk about specifically in my section is I'm going to talk about quantum computing and quantum sensing, where Australia is a leader globally, and probably this can be the most important computing technology of this century. So at Main Sequence, what we are doing is we're leaning into what we think are a few of the winners and focusing there. And we're trying to help these fierce mission-driven founders really get going and drive real change to build the next industrial giants. We absolutely believe that Australia can build major technology companies, and we're purpose-built to assist them. And we constantly sort of ask ourselves, why can't Australia build the next Apple, the next Google, the next Genentech, the next Rocket Lab? We have the people, we have the research expertise, we've got the drive, and we're seeing successes. We've seen it, Atlassian and Canva and Safety Culture, Zoox and Envato and Big Commerce and 10x Genomics, and on and on and on. So the next wave is not starting, it's actually here. We are right to say that Australia is the clever country, but cleverness isn't enough. We have to be able to execute on that. Because being clever without an ability to execute really is hallucination. So we've got to kind of get over that. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to break out into rooms. It's designed to be interactive. There'll be a short presentation by each of the Main Sequence partners. And then we want to invite some discussion and some debate. And from that discussion and debate, what we hope to do is we hope to then take some of those ideas back into our portfolio and back into our companies to improve their chances of success and build the next industrial giants. So the purpose that we have in our existence is really to help assist build Australia's next industrial giants, leading to lots of revenue, lots of jobs, and essentially laying the platform for Australia's next economic wave. And with that, I think we're going to break into the rooms. So we should have an invitation. Maria, I'll hand over to you to do that.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Maria MacNamara, and I'm the CEO of Advance. Welcome to each and every one of you this morning from all over the world. It's a real joy to have you here. Our team will now move you into each of the rooms. Many of you identified rooms, and some didn't. So we've chosen them for you. You'll get 2 rooms today. So over to you, Ivany and Michael. Welcome back, everyone. Zoom is very brutal when it cuts us off. So now we've had the experience of that. I want to thank each of the partners for their presentations and the tremendously insightful questions that we've received. While we set ourselves up for the next conversation, what I want to do is just take a few minutes to give you some more context. At the moment, what we're finding is that a problem shared is a problem halved. We all know that. The biggest problem that we've got at the moment in Australia is that there are over 1 million people unemployed, with an unemployment rate of 7.5% and an underemployment rate of 11.2%. We've also got industries that are coming to the end of their productive life. So the questions that we're facing today are, how do we build the new industries? How do we create the new companies? And how do we grow the next set of skills? Australians don't just need any jobs, they need well-paying jobs in order to maintain our standard of living. Many of you would have heard me speak about that before. Most importantly, we need the companies that produce the jobs and of course the skills to do them. And we've been talking about that in the various rooms. We've got 300,000 Australians that have returned already, as Yasmin alluded to earlier. Many of those have come with the skills that we need, and we have them amongst us today. And I welcome Richard Umbers back from Germany. I welcome Warwick Kramer, who's returned from Luxembourg, Jackie Lee Jones, who's come back from Europe and America as the Global Marketing Director of Netflix. I welcome Mark Rigotti, who's returned from the UK, where he was Global Managing Partner for Herbert Smith Freehills. We're seeing a tremendous pool of talent that has chosen to return for whatever reason, but predominantly because, of course, COVID has encouraged them to. COVID has accelerated many decisions, investments in technology, the use of technology. It's also resolved many of the challenges, the Australian aversion to moving online. We're now meeting online, we're reading online, we're shopping online, we're learning online. So many of the problems that we once faced in trying to convince the market that tech was good have evaporated. That gives us a tremendous opportunity. It gives us an opportunity to grow the sort of companies that are being discussed today. Advance's role in this conversation focuses on connecting the talent with the ideas and the opportunities. At the moment, we've encouraged people to join Advance because if we know about you, we can connect you to the ideas. In about a week's time, we're launching a survey, and we'd encourage you to share it with as many of your friends in the diaspora as possible, because the survey allows us to work out who's out there, what their skills are, where they're located, but more importantly, what their intentions are, so that we can feed that material through to Main Sequence Ventures, to government, and to organisations that are looking to tap that talent. The Irish do a brilliant job of marrying their diaspora with their innovation ecosystem. So they unlock the power of their network to fuel the growth of their economy. Over the next few months, we're going to see the Advance Awards. We invite you to join us for the Advance Awards because we are recognising Australia's most incredible global talent that are at the forefront of their field. Immediately after that, in November, we're going to have a conversation about energy, health, cyber and security, and space. We're also going to have a conversation about culture, all of those wrapped up in the Advanced Global Summit. I raise these issues because at those conversations, which are going to take the form of the recent global town hall we had on advanced manufacturing, the centre of those conversations are Australians leading global companies and Australians leading emerging companies, just like CoView, a Main Sequence Venture company, doing the very things our government and our economy has asked of us. Because what we want is an Australia that's thriving, not an Australia that's stuck. At the moment, we have a conversation that we're having with the young people of the nation. They're lacking hope. And the reason today is so important is because we give them hope. The companies that are being nurtured by Main Sequence Ventures, by CSIRO, and by the people around this on this call are giving the young people coming out organisations to work for that are producing high-paying jobs that are allowing us to maintain our quality of life. Connecting them up with the global diaspora allows us to dominate niches that otherwise wouldn't be available to us. And it's with that we're also expanding our ambassador base. Very soon we'll be launching the Advanced Japan connection, and we've got Melanie Brock with us today, and we welcome her. So I encourage you to consider in this next rotation, as we join the wider conversation, what contribution can you make to raising the debate about engaging with this new ecosystem? What contribution can you make to keeping tech at the forefront of the conversation? What decisions can you make in investment decisions? What decisions can you make in purchasing? How can you be a good customer? How can you direct the capital? And how can you employ the talent that allows you to accelerate this program of reinvention? And most importantly, how can you tap the expat talent that is returned, the expat talent that remains overseas, the young talent that has indicated their desire, and how can we unlock the potential? We have a moment to take a few questions, and with that, I've got one from Deanne Stewart. Are you on mute?
Hi, Marie. Yes, my question actually was in the previous session, but I'm happy to ask it to get the conversation going. And I think for me, I had a question that was really about how do you find, the combination from Main Sequence Ventures, how have they found, as they've actually partnered and collaborated with organisations like CSIRO, for example, what actually has created a win-win, a win for actually investors, a win for the economy, and a win for those that are collaborating, and what's worked and what hasn't worked. So for example, given that it has, many of the ideas have come out of CSRI, has the founder stayed with the organisation, and has that created more of a winning formula versus if it's just pure science and then they go back. So I'm just really interested in what's the combination here that seems to be working versus not working.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask that question of two people. One is David Thodey and the second is Bill Bartee.
I think Bill should go first, Marie. Well, look, it's, well, we should actually thank Malcolm, who's on the line as well, because this goes back to, you know, when NISA won, when we were allowed to take some of the value we got from Wi-Fi and set up a, you know, invest in Main Sequence Ventures, which was, you know, initiated by the government, CSIRO. Look, I think it works really well. I mean, we run it, you know, pretty independently. We have Alison Dean, who's on the board. Bill, you know, runs it as a venture capital firm. We have a close working relationship, but Bill's free to invest, you know, really where you want to, Bill. We keep a watchful eye on you, of course, but and have very high expectations. But I think it works really well because we have lots of commercialization process within CSIRO, but capital investment, you know, is something quite different, and you need different skills. So I think it's working very well, but we won't know until for a few more years with all the money we're going to, you know, raise, right, Bill?
Yeah, correct. So thanks, David. Dan, let me take a crack at this. It's remarkable that the right scientist and the right founder are almost exactly alike. And you know, you find that of course there are some differences, but and I'll give you an example in just a second. But we find that the scientific inquiry, which is what's the problem, how do we solve it, how do we iterate to find a product that is best solving it, that kind of scientific process is very similar to what a great entrepreneur does as well. And as an example, for instance, one of our investments is in a company called Q-Control, which is in the area of quantum control or error suppression. So error control and error suppression is super important in any kind of a quantum computing or quantum sensing group. And we knew that, and we went looking for somebody who had some expertise. And in particular, Australia, for historic reasons, has a very, very strong, very strong abilities in quantum, which I won't go into at the moment. But we found Michael Biersuk, who was a professor of quantum physics at Sydney University, and his specialty was quantum error suppression and quantum error correction. And so we started talking to Mike. He was getting great results in his lab, and we started talking to him, the entire team, and then Phil Morrill and myself started talking to him about, would you like to spin this out into a company? And he was at the point in his career where he actually really wanted to do that. So we helped him form his company and spin the company out. And where they are today, just to make a long story short, is I think there are about 40 people. He's raised dollars from us as well as international venture firms. He's the leading kind of quantum error suppression company and quantum sensing company globally. They're winning customers globally. So you've got, you know, in the early days of an emerging industry that's really important and could be the most important computing technology of this century, you've got a company that's leading the world in a particular area that's got 40 jobs so far, will likely have relationships with most of the major quantum computing companies globally within the next few years, has a super important piece of error control and error suppression technology in the quantum stack. And I see this getting nothing but bigger. So he's on a great growth path. And so what's happened is you have somebody who's an expert, who had all the characteristics of being an entrepreneur, who's spun the company out with the blessings of the University of Sydney, our backing, the backings of others in the world, other venture firms, and is now beginning to lead the world in this area. And this is a super important area for everybody globally. Every team globally has the same issue. And Mike's company has a chance to solve it. So I think there is a formula, or I wouldn't call it a formula, but there is an algorithm that has a couple of different variables that can work depending upon the individuals and the institutions that it's coming out of. And we work very hard to do that. I mean, Phil may have a little bit different slant on this as far as, you know, V2 goes. So Phil, if you want to chime
Well,
in.
what we might do is
Okay.
Phil can answer that in the room.
Okay.
We're just about to go into our next room. And I encourage you to keep your questions short and your answers shorter so that we can get
Sorry.
through to you. Not a problem, not a problem. We'll also capture all the questions and put it to the main sequence team, and we'll share those after the event. Brevity is best today. Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. I know that some of those conversations could have gone on for at least another half hour. So we know that the model works, and I suspect this will be the first of many conversations. So what I'll do, we took a little bit extra in those rooms. And so Bill, I'll ask you to make your closing remarks very quick, and then we'll be joined by Arthur Sinodinos, our ambassador to the United States. And it's a joy to have him with us.
So thanks very much, everybody, for joining. I'll make this very quick because I know we're near the end of the time. But look, I hope we gave you a sense of some of the things that we're working on. And I think we all believe that Australia is well positioned to lead in a number of these particular areas. We have lots of opportunities here, and you know, Main Sequence and others are dedicated to helping preserve and improve those positions. We've learned quite a bit from the questions. We're going to take some of those questions back and hopefully incorporate them into what we do to make some better decisions. So I really appreciate all the feedback, and hopefully this has been fun for everybody else as well. This is all in an effort to make sure that Australia builds a great base for the country, produces lots of new revenues through lots of new industries and lots of new jobs. So it's an important mission. So again, thanks, Maria. Now, just a couple of quick things, and I'll hand it over to Ambassador Sinodinos. We do have, for those of you who are interested and who have an address in Australia, if you want to leave your address with Advance, then we have a V2 package that we can send to you, and you can actually taste the deliciousness of it. So we will deliver that to you if that's of interest. I also think there's a poll question that's coming up, Maria.
Yeah, it'll pop up now. It's
That'll
very
pop up.
quick. You can keep talking. Yeah.
Okay, great. And what I'd like to say in conclusion is, look, thanks again very much for attending. We'd love your feedback. I'd love to stay in touch, and anybody who wants to can get in touch with us. We're happy to help in any way and happy to support. And let's do the poll, and then I will hand it over to Ambassador Sinodinos, who will leave us with some of his thoughts and some of his insights, and really appreciate all the support. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks very much, Maria. I'll make this quick. As you get older, you sort of start to understand how little you really know. And today was a great reminder of how much knowledge is out there. If there's an upside to growing older, it's realizing there's so much knowledge out there that we can all garner. For me today was a great reminder of the capability and the talent we've got in Australia, both the presenters and the people on the call. It's a reminder that science and research are one of our comparative advantages as a country, and therefore something we can build on. There's nothing artificial about it, but it does require organisation. It requires effort. We have to shape the future. And so for me, it was a reminder as an ex-poly of how important the role of government is in the process of taking a strategic approach, of being prepared to make bets. And in that context, I want to pay tribute to my ex-colleague and still good friend, Malcolm Turnbull, because I think the sort of principles and values that underpin the National Innovation Science Agenda are as relevant today as they were then. And I think we need to make the big bets, Quantum computing that Bill was talking about before is one of those areas. These are the areas that revolutionize the future, that create new industries. The other lesson I took out of this, and I happened to be discussing this the other day with some of the CSIRO reps on the west coast of the US, is the point that Bill raised about being a net producer as opposed to just a net consumer of technology. You get in on the ground floor, you develop the technology, you design, you develop the products, etc., etc. That's how you build expertise, and that's how you attract other investment and you attract the jobs. That's what it's about, and it's having that innovation mindset. My final point is about Advance, and I'd be keen to follow up, Maria, the work you mentioned around Ireland and what they're doing, because I think we need to make sure that the Australian government has an appreciation of the role it can play with the diaspora in promoting an innovation ecosystem. So ladies and gentlemen, you've all been fantastic. You're a great group. I count you all as friends. We're trying to do great things here in the US, and you are all enlisted in that. We've got some great dialogues with the US government around frontier technologies, critical technologies. It provides us with a capacity to find the sort of companies and US government investors that can work with us to create more jobs and investment in the US and in Australia. So thank you very much, Maria, for today. And thank you, Yasmin, and the whole team.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Arthur.
Arthur.
Thank you very much. And I concur. It's very exciting and stimulating to be in this conversation today. I'd love it to go on a bit longer. I particularly liked Bill's comment at the start. Being clever without execution is hallucination. That's really struck me, because the future is now. These main sequence venture businesses are a window into what Australia can do when we focus on our talent and we remove barriers. And most of the questions that I heard in my rooms relate to how can we do more of this? How can we share the risks and the revenues? So there's significant will in this Zoom room. And I'm certain that our Australians at home and around the world are willing to lean in and help us solve some of these issues. Our greatest resource is our talent, and Advance and Main Sequence stand ready to help. So thank you, everyone. Thank you and goodbye.